Okay, here we go. All right. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, folks. Welcome to the CEG C-Level Connect series. Today is program number 33. This is the 33rd month of our operation. Today is Sunday, April 28th, 2024. It's 8 o'clock Indian Standard Time. A few guidelines for those of you who may be new to this program. Please stay muted during the initial part of the fireside chat session, and please turn off your video. I will be asking you to open your video during the second half of the program so we can take a screenshot of who all attended the session. But until such time, please turn off your video. This entire session is recorded, and the recording will be available on our public YouTube channel, CEG Connects. During the program, if you have any questions, you can use the Slido program. Slido is a open source third-party program that we use. Yeah, I will introduce Slido and how to use Slido in the next few slides, but please use Slido. In addition to asking questions, there will be periodic live polls in Slido, which I'll be asking. You can participate in the poll. Some questions are multiple choice, some questions are text type questions. So you could participate in the poll and give your responses. I would encourage you to respond as much as possible. And during the Q&A session in the second half of the program, if you have posted a question or if you would like to ask a question, you can do the hand raise symbol in the Google chat box, or you could just type the question in Slido, and I will call your name. You can unmute, open your video, and ask your question. Okay. So today's guest speaker is Dr. Shantha Mohan, CEG 1971, Electronics and Communication Engineering. She is currently the adjunct faculty at the Integrated Innovation Institute in Carnegie Mellon University. Carnegie Mellon University, as you all know, it's a world-class university in the top 10 rankings in the world for various degrees, various areas, including robotics, computer science, etc. And I'll be the host. Jaytesh Kalpakam, the co-host, is not able to join today because he is busy with his personal activities. And Partha, of course, is there today to support us with the tech support as well as recording the program. So today's Slido session, what you have to do is you can go to Slido, go to any device. It's a laptop, desktop, phone, or any other device. You can go to any browser, Chrome or Firefox or Safari, any browser, and type slido.com. When you type slido.com in the browser, you'll get a screen where it will be asking you for a code. The code you need to use today is 3361519. 3361519. Partha will be periodically posting this code and how to join Slido in the Google chat box for those of you who are joining late. But people who are already in the call, you can go to slido.com and type 3361519 to join the Slido session. Once you type the code, you will come to a screen like this, where you will have a Q&A tab and a polls tab. The Q&A tab is where you can type the question anytime during the program. You can type the question for the host or for the guest. And the polls tab is where we will be asking you questions, where we'll be posting poll questions, and you can respond to the poll questions. Okay. With that, I'm going to now invite Dr. Shantha Mohan to the program. Thanks, Shantha, for taking the time. I know it's a little early morning in the US West Coast. Thank you for joining us on a Sunday early morning. We will start with the first part of the session where we will invite you to give your story from the time you left CEG or even the time before you joined CEG, whichever is interesting to you. And you can talk about, specifically, we are looking for any experiences, learnings, advice that you would like to pass on to the younger generation. The audience in the show today are a mix of students and alumni, but more importantly, the audience for the recording will be a very good mix of students and alumni as well. And normally we see a lot of younger alumni watch the recording and ask questions. So you can appropriately do your content addressing to both the younger as well as the younger alumni as well as the students. So with that, I will turn it over to you, Shantha, and please take it away.
Thank you, Vish. Thank you for inviting me to your CEG Connect series. It's been going on for quite a while, and you've had some illustrious guests on this show, so I'm happy to be here. I think that a lot of people know me because of my social media presence, and I also have been very active in the alumni associations. But to begin with, perhaps I will give you some information on where I come from and where I am today, and I'll try to make it really short. It's very hard to do that when you have lived 70 plus years, but anyway, here goes. So I was born in Tenmalai, rubber plantation in the Western Ghats of India. And my father was chief medical officer there, and I was born in a family that is, you know, big. By those days standards, it's not that big. We were 8 kids to my father, but I was somewhere in the middle. And when my father retired, when I was in second grade, we all moved to Madurai. So I grew up in Madurai, attending the high school there. And while growing up, I always had this knack of understanding machinery and putting things together. So I had, genuine interest in how things worked. So that sparked an interest in studying something to do with how things work. But really, the reason why I wanted to do engineering was my father, who was a brilliant student, had admissions to both medical and engineering college, and he couldn't join engineering because it had a residency requirement. He had a widowed mother, and he had to stay home and take care of her, so he chose medicine. So that's how he ended up in medicine, and we had heard this story. And so I said, oh, he couldn't be an engineer. I would like to be an engineer. And so that's kind of how that came about. In those days, this was 1966. It's not so usual that young girls would leave home and go live in someplace else and study. But that's what I wanted to do. And my elder sister, who's only 2 years older than me, was strongly by my side, advocating for me and telling my parents, you should let her go. And so that's how I ended up in CEG. And we were 8 girls in our class, and the batch before us had even less. And, you know, CEG was a very happy place for me, except for the fact that I had, I came down with some ailment and had to be hospitalized for about 2 weeks or so in Andhra Mahila Sabha. And those days, we didn't have women's hostel. We stayed in a hostel that was meant for um, women in Polytechnic. And by the way, the person who was running the Women's Polytechnic was also a CEG alum. And May George, she was tasked with opening a technical institute for women. And so the Polytechnic was her child, actually. And she was running the hostel as well. And she kindly allowed those of us who came from elsewhere to Chennai to study to stay in that hostel. And so I stayed in the hostel for all 5 years of my uh, education in CEG. In those days, it was 5 years as opposed to the 4 years today. And once I graduated, I joined Electronic Corporation of India in Hyderabad. And I worked there for 4 years. I was not a very good worker, I should say. For my interests were really not that well aligned. But in the meantime, I met my husband there, who was also working in ECIL, and he was a computer science department. He was working in the computer science area. And we got married, and then I had a child. And in all of this, I had always wanted to go to US, and my husband and I, we decided we will move to the US. And so we did. And I kind of stopped working when my daughter was born. So basically, I stayed home. And when we moved to the US, I was not working. And we came to Carnegie Mellon, where my husband was going to do his PhD. He had a dependent stipend for both myself and my daughter. So that was really something. And so we started our life in Pittsburgh. And when my daughter was about 3.5, I applied for my PhD in what is now called Tepper Business School. It used to be called Graduate School of Industrial Administration. So I got my PhD there in operations management. And then the family moved to the Bay Area, where I found a job as a programmer of all things COBOL in Consilium. And Consilium was in the business of uh, manufacturing execution systems. We were providing software to all the top semiconductor companies, Intel, AMD, SGS Thompson, worldwide. We were running their system so that they could actually track the operations through the various equipment that a wafer goes through. For those of you who know what semiconductor wafer manufacturing is about, a wafer starts out as raw silicon and a plate of a wafer of silicon, and it moves through various stages of being developed and finally ends up as uh, as something that houses a lot of different dies, pieces of semiconductor dies that consist of many different circuits. So anyway, so these processes are very, very intricate, very unreliable, and our job was to actually track them so that we could bring some amount of order into these operations and make them repeatable. So my job was to create an algorithm that would, help us do this. And I started out as a software engineer, and by the time I left Consilium after our acquisition by Applied Materials, I was running the, worldwide software engineering organization there. And we talk about remote working and everything today, but in those days, which was in the 80s and 90s, I was running teams that were in US and also in India. And when Applied Materials acquired Consilium, I felt, being a software person, working for a hardware company, which is what Applied Materials is, for those of you who are not very familiar, I wasn't feeling so happy about it. So I decided that perhaps I want to do something else. So I left Applied Materials and started my own consulting company, consulting for those enterprises which don't have software as their core competency, but yet have to deal with it. And so I was helping people put in place software development processes and helping them with various software issues. And while I was doing this, after about a year and a half, two, my old boss, my old CEO from Consilium, reached out to me and said, I'm thinking of starting a company, and would you like to join me in starting it? I said, sure, we can see how that goes, but I'm not going to work full time. I'll do it part time. He said, sure, I want you to be responsible for, uh, you know, making sure that we have the product and the engineering all under control there. So I said, okay. So we got together, four of us, my old boss, myself, and two others, one of whom was an expert in RFID. He was running RFID lab for SAP. And so at that time, this was in early 2000, RFID was a big deal. The hype around RFID was so much that everybody thought it was going to change everything. And, we wanted to take advantage of RFID generating this huge amount of data, which later was called big data. And we said, okay, we'll use the data that is generated by RFID to do tracking, just like how we did for Consilium way back when, which was, all manual data. So we decided we'll do something, and we called the company T3CI, a very funny name. Uh, the T3 is for the tag tracking, and then C, company, T3CI Incorporated. And so we said, okay, well, what kind of use cases could we think about in terms of using the RFID data? And at that time, Walmart had mandated uh, that every supplier will tag all their products from the time they leave the manufacturing warehouses to when it leaves the customer. You can have the RFID being tracked all the way from beginning to end, and that rich data can enhance a lot of things that the retailers and the suppliers do. So that's what we set out to do. And we thought, oh, we have a really good, use case here. It is going to be sticky because Walmart has mandated it. But guess what? It really was not so easy. First of all, RFID was not mature enough. The tags were not being read, and the data collected was so totally unreliable. And we were asking ourselves, is this really something that we should be doing with RFID? Because it was very clear after a few years of working through pilots with big customers like Procter and Gamble, PepsiCo, Unilever, and so on, that it wasn't really going anywhere. So we were asking ourselves, so this doesn't make any sense. One of the use cases that we were doing was called out of stock problem solving. Now, those of you who know retail, or even as a customer, when you go to the store, you look at the shelves, and if the product you want is not there, you feel very disappointed. So, for example, I go to the store, I like Tide, laundry detergent, and more often than not, if the shelf is empty, then I'm going to ask myself, why do I come to this store? I'll go to another store where they are well stocked and so on. So out of stock was a very big problem for not just retailers, but also the CPG companies who are supplying it, because they want their product to be on the shelf. Uh, some of the things that happen when the product is not on the shelf is that, first of all, I would leave that retailer and go to another retailer, or I would buy some other brand. So this was a big deal for people like Procter and Gamble, who were working with us to develop algorithms to solve this problem. So in the process of solving this problem, we realized that even though RFID data was not reliable, the traditional data, like such as the point of sale data, which was available, which again was not as reliable as one would like it to be, like the machine data, but still much better than RFID. So we said, maybe we can do this use case without having RFID data there. And while we were thinking about all this, Walmart pulled the rug from under us. It said, we are not mandating it anymore. The suppliers don't have to do it, which was a big deal because these chips, these tags cost a lot of money, the RFID tags. And the suppliers were very happy, and the use of RFID came to a standstill. So we said, now we know we can solve many use cases without the use of RFID in the retail. So why don't we pivot and become become a retail analytics company? And so in the process, we came across a company in the East Coast, which was doing retail analytics for CVS, just one customer. They were a captive user. And we said, it looks like they have some infrastructure to be able to do this. And maybe if we buy this company, we can immediately transform ourselves into a retail analytics company. And it was the SaaS company when SaaS was not that well understood or used. So by buying this company, we became overnight a SaaS retail analytics company using traditional data. And then from that point on, we grew and became a leader. And while I started out as running both product management and engineering, as we grew, obviously we needed help from others. So we brought in a VP of product management, and I totally focused on engineering. And in running this engineering, I had teams in the East Coast, in Shanghai, in India, and later on we acquired another company in the UK. So Richmond, UK was another team. So I had a really great time growing this company from nothing to a substantial leader in retail analytics, especially for the CPG folks. So after 2016, I retired from this company. We brought in a set of new managers, and it was time for all of us, the founders, we were all about the same age, to retire. And so I said, okay, what do I want to do with my life? And I have always been fascinated by the so-called portfolio career. I think all of you are probably familiar with it. It's not just one thing, but doing many things, and many things that are of interest to you. So for me, my interest then became something that I would do to um, give back to the two institutes that brought me to where I was. And so CEG and CMU. And so with CMU, I met this professor who was teaching innovation and entrepreneurship. And he said, why don't you come co-teach with me? So it was not a teaching job per se, because we had a lab that was innovation lab, which was sponsored by Emirates Airline. And the Emirates Airline wanted us to help them solve a whole host of problems, all the way from enhancing revenue to how to run their ticket offices, which will pull people from the street to come in and perhaps buy tickets. And so what we did was to run that lab. I was the entrepreneur in residence, executive in residence rather. And so this went on for quite a few years, and I was helping this professor uh, do this course, as well as help the students in their projects, because the professor was not a very technical person, so he counted on me to be his technical aid. So this went on for a while, and then the university asked me to teach courses. So I started teaching career strategies for students who are in the Master of Science in Software Management. And this fall, I'll be teaching a course on leadership. So all this was happening with the education part of it. And the other part was that of um, working on something that was satisfying to me as a woman in a profession that didn't have that many women, especially in those days when I started out. The funny thing is, I have always been a feminist. And now, how many of you think that feminist is a bad word? It's not. Feminism does not mean you put down men. Just does mean that women should be given equal opportunity as the men do. And I was a feminist because I always advocated for myself. I never really hesitated to join engineering just because it was full of men. And I asked myself, so here I was in 1960s joining this college where so few women were there, but what about those who came before me? And that started a thought in my mind that I should be uh, putting them all out there to tell people, even in those days when it was not heard of that women were in engineering college, here were these women who made a big difference. And it started with Lalita, who joined the college in the 1940s, who was a widow, had a child, and it was just amazing how all these women who came before me accomplished so much with so little support from the society for women to be in engineering. So I decided to write a book. And that was really such a satisfying experience because I got to talk to a lot of different people, because some of the women who graduated from CEG were already dead. And so I had to try and find relatives who might be able to help me write about them. And so the result was this book called Roots and Wings. And it, it just brought me closer to CEG because I met so many alum uh, who also helped me. It was really such a satisfying experience. Now, because of this book, somebody reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, Shantha, we are writing a book on AI, demystifying AI for the enterprise. How would you like to contribute a chapter for it? I said, sure. So it was a chapter on AI in retail for this book. So that was my second book, co-authored with the 6 others. And while I was doing all this, the leadership aspect of my life was percolating in my mind. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm a huge Beatles fan, which the love for Beatles started when I was in CEG, where we used to listen to Listener's Choice, and we heard all the Western musical legends, like Jim Reeves and Cliff Richard and Beatles. So the Beatles have always been an inspiration to me because whenever I hear some of their songs, the song title would resonate with something that's going on in my life. For example, there is a song that is called We Can Work It Out. So any conflict, any negotiation that I have to go into, that music will pop up in my mind. And I will go in there with such confidence that we can work this out. So I was thinking about songs like this, and I decided I will write a book on leadership, mainly because when I started out in my career, I was just learning by the seat of my pants. There was nobody telling me, do this, do that. And for us engineers, we are all great at problem solving. Even today, when somebody comes to me and says, hey, I have, this trouble, the immediate thing that I jump to is, how can I solve this problem? It's not that other aspect, which is that of listening, paying attention to their emotions, supporting them in what they are going through, and just step back and say, tell me, what are you going through? That empathetic response. Some of us are born with it, but I was not. So I was a manager who started out just focused on results. And so I thought, I learned so much over the years from my experience. Why don't I put my love of Beatles songs, the inspirations, with the lessons that I learned, and create a book specially meant for aspiring leaders, especially engineers who are just starting out in their career, wanting to become leaders. So that resulted in this book called Leadership Lessons with Beatles, which is my latest. And I have always been interested in uh, giving back to both the universities, and I have had now the opportunity to mentor. So my life is filled with mentoring engagements, and I do this in a few different ways. I've had CEG students coming to me for mentorship, We have a program called Ask a CEGN in Sigana, through which we do that. And I've been doing that for a while. I obviously mentor students in CMU. And in addition, they also have a program called Barbara Smith Mentorship Program, which is for mentoring women staff. So I do that. And then there is an organization called Society of Women Engineers. Again, I mentor through them. So, people can reach out. They have a nice mentorship platform uh, through which people reach out to me. And obviously, because I'm active on social media, um, people reach out to me on LinkedIn, whether it's startup or higher studies or life. So I've been doing that. And then last but not least, I am a grandmother. I have 3 grandchildren, and lucky for me, they live close by. And so I get to see them all the time. I, of course, take them in whenever their parents say, Mom, can you take them for this evening? Sure, yeah. One might call babysitting, but I don't want to call it babysitting because it's not babysitting. It's really, I get to enjoy them for the brief time that they could be given to me. So that's pretty much my entire life. I don't know how many minutes I took, but there
It's
we
okay.
are.
You did a good job. You gave a very good idea of all the significant moments. So it is very useful. I got a couple of questions that I got, and I also
Yeah.
got a questions from students. Some of the CG students who couldn't join today sent me questions that they wanted to ask you.
Oh,
They
okay.
couldn't join today because they're busy with some college function today, but they definitely wanted to do. So let me ask my questions first.
Yeah.
Let me make a few comments. Pittsburgh is also my second home.
Oh, nice.
I ran a company in Pittsburgh for several
Hmm.
years.
Yeah.
I was also part of the CMU had a division called CIE, Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. I don't know what they call it now. It was back in the 2017-18 timeframe. They had called it CIE. So Eric Johnson, who was running CIE, used to partner. We were industry partner with CIE to do programs
Nice.
together with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's also an angel group in Pittsburgh called the Blue Tree Allied Angels.
Hmm.
Blue Tree
Hmm.
Allied Angels works with CMU and UPMC for
Hmm.
healthcare related startups.
Yeah.
So I was part of the group. So we had done a lot of work with CMU. Amazing place, amazing campus, amazing people. And Pittsburgh, I think, is a very not well appreciated city. I
Oh,
think it's
I agree with you.
one of the beautiful cities in the country with a lovely river in
Exactly.
between.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
much cheaper than anywhere in the US. It's not as
Yeah.
cold
Yeah.
as Chicago, but people don't give enough credit for
Yeah,
Pittsburgh.
wish there is a story there because when we moved from Pittsburgh to the Bay Area, people in the Bay Area were asking me, "Aren't you happy to be out of Pittsburgh and here?" I said, "No, I actually wanted to stay there." And we came to the Bay Area only because my husband first came and was interviewing with HP, Hewlett
Yeah,
Packard,
yeah,
and he went on 280 and fell in love with the Bay Area. We said we had to go to Bay Area, so that's kind of how we ended up. But I would have loved to have stayed in
yeah.
Pittsburgh. Yeah,
We had an office in a suburb called what's that suburb called?
Monroeville.
No, not Monroe. It's on the east on the western side. I can't even remember the place I was working actually. It's a western. It's in not in. It was not in. It was in Washington County. There's another county. We're not in the main city, but we used to go there regularly.
Yeah.
So anyway, the other question I had is you do a lot of work with artificial intelligence and the data and large language models. I think a lot of people are interested in that area. A lot of people don't understand what it means, and particularly for people who are in running companies and startups, it's become a thing that they need to latch on to. Since you had written the book, maybe you can give a little bit of a little bit of color on what is the implication of AI in business, whether it's a startup or a company. So it's something,
Yeah.
some very high level colors we can prompt people to ask questions on that.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what does it mean to use AI? AI is not brand new. AI has been around for a very, very long time,
Mm,
and CMU, in fact, is one of the pioneers in
mm,
AI. Um, if you look at, so I will give a retail example on AI.
mm,
If you look at somebody in e-commerce, such as Amazon or Walmart, when you go to their website, you can see some of the products being prominently displayed to you.
Mm.
And this is very, very personalized.
Mm.
It's personalized for Shantha
Mm.
because they, by knowing everything that I've been doing in retail, buying from their e-commerce site, know what I like. And so they are able to use that data to then present things to me that I might be interested in buying. This is called recommendation.
Mm.
So this recommendation engine has been running for a long time in e-commerce sites like Amazon. And how do they do that? They collect every little piece of data about you.
Mm.
So when you buy something, they know exactly what you bought, when you bought,
Mm.
how much you bought,
Mm.
and so that helps them to gather all this data and then do the analysis and
Right.
then turn it into insight. So, for example, if I had just had a baby, 4 years ago, and I bought diapers and so on and so forth, they keep track of this baby
Mm.
buying habit.
Mm.
And now, 4 years later, they know I have a toddler.
Mm.
And so, what does the toddler need? So,
Mm.
they will be presenting that information to me. So, this is in a nutshell, how data is being used
Right.
to derive insights. And AI, what AI does is with the so-called ability of machine learning, meaning the machine understands the data now and the without me explicitly programming for it is able to then make sense of the data. And taking it one step further, the most recent advance is the generative AI.
Mm.
Now, generative AI not only understands the data, but it can generate new data.
Mm.
And so you see data from text to video, text to images, and text to text
Mm.
is possible. And it's all possible because uh, the system gets trained on all the data that's
Mm.
being collected.
Mm.
So this is a big topic now because it's being trained on data that doesn't really truly belong to the company, which is
Right.
training on that data. So now we have this phenomena called Gen AI, which is helping everybody presumably doing a better job of whatever they do, gaining productivity and so on. But there is also all these other things that go with it, such as the bias, such as the hallucinations, and so on. So here we are in a truly remarkable advancement in technology, which is Gen AI.
Yeah. Interesting because Anna University has a department called Center for Distance Education. I think you're familiar with them. They have reached out to me for me to give a guest lecture on LLMs and AI
I
actually.
already did one guest lecture on,
Uh, so they
yeah,
asked,
yeah,
I'm doing one for them in May actually, month of May, and the topic they
okay,
wanted is generative AI and large language models. What's the application of that in business
uh-huh,
for
uh-huh,
MBA students, etc.
yeah, yeah.
Good. So let me ask the audience to open up the video. We want to take one screenshot of everyone's video open, please. We could kindly open the video. While you're doing that, I'm going to ask Kirti to unmute and ask her question. Kirti, can you ask a question? Hi, Kirti. You want to ask your question? So let me ask the question, Shanta, that Kirti had posted.
Okay.
Her question is, hello, ma'am. Where do you see the future of tech going with the now new mix of AI? What are the sectors do you think students should consider innovating in?
Great question. And it is everything. You can imagine how every aspect of your life is going to be transformed because of this technology,
Yeah,
Gen AI. Now, the thing is, some are more advanced than the others.
right,
And while we think that this is going to be everywhere, there are certain things that might impact how widespread it will be.
right,
And one of those is regulations.
right,
Regulations are coming, and people are worried about, um, having this technology be available
right,
without any kind of guardrails. How what that might do to, um, you know, our safety and
Right.
security and privacy. So there is going to be that. But I would say that one of the most promising ones that I can think of is probably in healthcare.
Mm,
Healthcare is, something where one can think of Gen AI helping.
mm,
I would say that in all of this, it's not that you can just hand it over to Gen AI and say, it's going to do its job.
mm,
There's got to be a human in the loop
mm,
because it's going to get better. The technology is going to get better. It's going to, become really solid. However, it is still something that requires humans to be in the loop,
mm.
humans to say, is this the right thing to do?
Right.
But I do think that healthcare is one, manufacturing is another.
Mm,
I mean, it is really in everything, even education, right?
yeah.
So we are now talking about personalized tutoring for every child. Even
Right.
if the class is really big, you can have individual tutoring for every child using Gen AI.
Right.
Again, we have to be aware of all the things that could go wrong and put some guardrails to overcome that.
Super. Great. One of the question from one of the students was that asking about higher studies in the US. The question was, is it worth going to the US for higher studies given the situation with jobs and immigration, or would we rather do study in India? It's a very difficult question to answer, I know, but this is a very general question they're asking.
Yeah. I would say it depends on your situation.
Yeah.
There is never really one answer. There is, one answer doesn't fit all. For example, if you are somebody who is really keen on experiencing other cultures,
Mm,
want to, be in a different situation than in India,
mm,
by all means, if you can afford it, do it. But
mm,
do it with your eyes open.
mm,
Meaning, today the economical situation is really not so great.
mm,
People are finding it extremely difficult to find jobs. I
mm,
know that some jobs are really easy to come by, but not others.
mm,
Um, but if you can afford it,
mm,
if you can come here and have the options open for going back,
mm,
I would do it. It's such a great experience to be in an entirely different way of life,
mm,
experiencing it, taking it, opening your mind to all kinds of experiences.
mm.
It's definitely worth it in your life. But if your aim is only to get a job and stay in the US, I would say you will be taking a chance. And it's a chance probably worth taking if you can afford to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I would say things are not like it used to be.
Right.
Today, if you look at India, India is now considered the place to be.
Mm,
There are people wanting to be in India rather than in the US because there's so much happening there.
mm,
The advancement in technology, I mean, Gen AI again is uh, it's as advanced there as it is in the US, I would say.
mm,
And, you know, and I would say the U.S. Institutions and Indian institutions, they do a really good job. They're all doing a great job, and so you can't lose going to either one. But like I said, it really depends on your situation. The other thing is we hear so much about those who come here to the US, the H-1B visa, it could they say it could take 134 years for somebody to get, their green card.
yeah.
Now, if you don't mind going through all of those things, you know, you can try and find a job here.
Right.
But if you say, I see India as advanced as here, there are some things that are much better in India than in the US.
Correct.
For example, if you come here, you pretty much have to take care of yourself in everything. You don't have a support structure. You have that in India. You have
Right.
people around you and so on. So it's a hard question, and the answer is not one size doesn't fit all. You've got to look at each case.
Exactly. That is my answer too. I said I went to the US in 1987 for higher studies. Life
Hmm.
was very different then. Getting an assistantship or getting a fellowship, which is how I got, wasn't that difficult, and jobs were available, and immigration wasn't very hard at the time.
Yep.
So we,
Yep.
we had a good time, but things are not that easy. I know the number of students from CET who are studying in the US now, looking for internships and jobs, are growing every day. Now we have a WhatsApp group we're running for CEG is looking for a career, and
Right.
we see a lot of people looking for jobs. Some of them get it, but not as much as we would like to see them get it.
Hmm.
But yeah, so let's go to the line and see who else has a question. Someone anonymous. Why can't we have a similar innovation club in CEG? Who asked the question? Can you please unmute and ask your question and tell us what the context is? Uh, it says anonymous here, Shantha. So I'm just going to leave it there. Why can't we have a similar innovation club like presently asking about similar to one in CMU? I'm assuming they're asking.
Oh, I think we have, right? I think Anna University, College of Engineering, you all have those clubs. I read about them every day on the postings.
Yeah, there
So
are there are
that
there are
is
actually
why not?
let me
Yeah.
help you with that answer. There are actually three different organizations within CEG which can reach out to. One is the Atal Incubation Center. We have an Atal Incubation Center which is mainly meant for incubating startups. It's a government of India run initiative with the support from an university. So there are a lot of startups getting incubated. So there do a lot of work to support innovation, startups, etc. Then we have the Center for Entrepreneurship Development. They focus more on entrepreneurship, not so much on innovation. And then we have Center for Multidisciplinary Innovation. It's new center that started about a year and a half ago. Dr. Umadevi is the director of that. They focus on innovation across all aspects of engineering. In fact, they specifically look for innovations that can cut across multiple domains in the engineering field, like mechanical, computer science, civil, biomedical, etc. All that. So we do have some. Unfortunately, people don't hear them very much. They don't hear about them very much, but those things do exist in an university, but maybe not quite as popular and famous as the one in CMU, presumably. Uh, so next question I have is another anonymous question. Great initiative to start a writing career, ma'am. So somebody made a comment. Whoever made the comment, can you please unmute and make the comment again? I'm not sure who made the comment, Shanta. But
I made the comment. I'm Vasudha from
Oh,
CMU.
hi, Vasudha.
okay. Hi, Vasudha. How are you
Hi,
doing?
sir. Hi, Vish.
We are connected on LinkedIn, right, Vasudha?
Yes, ma'am. I was there for the talk by Deepa also on the outdoor.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, yeah, right, right. I think so. Yeah, yeah.
I follow you on LinkedIn. Yes, and it's a pleasure to see all the.
Yeah.
So nice of you to come today.
Thank you, ma'am. It's a
So
pleasure.
we have another comment from Kirti Raghavendra. Kirti, you want to unmute and ask your question?
Yeah, sure.
Please.
Um, just a second. Let me just pull it up.
We want to see you too. If you don't mind, we want to see you too.
I unfortunately won't be
Okay,
able
no
to
issues. No
put my
issues.
camera on.
No issues. No issues.
Yeah. So my question was with respect to understand where ma'am sees the future of tech going. Especially, I want to understand what are the sectors that students should consider innovating in.
Oh, the sectors students should consider innovating in?
Yeah.
Okay. So that has a number of considerations.
Mm-hmm.
One is you have to feel passionate about that sector.
Right.
You have to know, am I interested in solving a problem in, say, healthcare, or am I interested in solving a problem in communication? You have to know what is it that drives you. So that's important. And the second thing is you have to look around, look at the lay of the land and see how things are evolving and where you see the opportunities to use your abilities. So you have to have a understanding of everything that's going on, keeping your mind open. and then knowing what is your passion. So I mentioned, healthcare or manufacturing or whatever. It may not be all those. It may be just enabling a technology that helps solve multiple problems. It could be, across many different industries. So you have to know what is it that you are interested in doing, and what is the landscape looking like at the time you are ready to start something. And as I was mentioning about my book, ideas keep percolating in your mind.
Yeah.
It's not standing still. You have lots of different ideas. I would say start keeping a journal and note down everything that comes to your mind. And when it's time to start something, go back and look at it and say which one might be most appropriate for the time that you are in, to do something about.
I think those are some fantastic inputs. I have follow-up questions if I could, but
Please go ahead.
yeah, so I think the first question is, where do you see innovation in the sustainability sector? Do you think sustainability is a, a sector in which you can innovate in as a business core, or something that comes along with, let's say, healthcare or finance, and it comes as a realm of things? That's my first question. And the second question is a little bit of deviation, but um, when is the right time to start up? Is it when you are young and thriving, or is it when you have a little bit more of an experience? Yeah.
So again, it might look like I'm not answering in a pinpoint way, but it really depends. So
Right.
I think your first question was
Sustainability.
sustainability. Okay, I am not an expert on sustainability. I believe in sustainability. I do everything I can do as an individual to do what I can, but sustainability is a very broad area. And
Right.
when you are doing a startup, the advice is really to be focused. Pick
Yeah.
one thing and do that and gain experience, and then you can branch out into multiple things.
Right.
So there are people who are doing things today, such as I think there is a entrepreneur in Chennai who started out with a vending machine for bags, reusable bags.
Yeah.
Sounds simple, but the impact is really, really big.
Yeah.
So you got to find something, one thing that you can focus on, and do that. And then, what is the right time to do a startup? There isn't one. I know youngsters, really, really young, and you would meet some of them, Kirti, when you come to CMU. Some of them are, who just graduated from IIT Madras, who are doing MSSM course, and
Yes.
they
I have
have a
checked them out.
burning
Yes.
desire to start
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
They value that as much as getting an education, and for them, this is the right time. They have to apply themselves and do it.
Right.
And on the other hand, I do believe that having some amount of exposure to the corporate world or even a startup world is very beneficial, because it gives you an understanding of all the things that go on and how you can succeed in those environments. So I would say it really depends on what you want to do. Now, I talked about these budding entrepreneurs who have a burning desire to do things, and they were not just starting now. They started it long back when they were in schools. They were always doing tinkering, creating projects, and so on. So it really depends. And then you have people like me. I mean, I didn't start a company, co-found one until I was 50. So it takes all kinds of people.
Kirti, are you a student now, or have you graduated?
I am a final year student. I'm from Bangalore, PS University, and I'll be joining the MSSM program straight out of undergrad.
Oh, I see. Okay, very nice.
Yeah, she's coming to my school. I'll be her teacher.
Excellent, excellent. I have
Looking forward, ma'am.
there are a few people in our college, alumni from our college, who are doing work in the sustainability space in Chennai. One of them actually is a professor at IIT Chennai.
Oh yeah, I was about to mention Jindu.
So Dr. Indumati Nambi, she's head of the department, and they are primarily focusing on carbon neutral projects and carbon sequestration, net zero models, etc. She actually runs hackathons, national level hackathons on that topic, which she and her team runs. So you could definitely reach out to her. She's a professor at IIT Chennai. It comes under the civil engineering department, but she has her own team and her own department to do the sustainability program. There are a few others who are doing. One of the incubatees in our incubation center does recycling, upcycling and recycling. They're doing some innovation, upcycling, recycling. So we have quite a few who are working in this area. So if you're interested, I can connect you to some of those folks if you want to get uh, if you get some information from them.
Absolutely, sir. I've noted the names down, but I would love to have you connect me with them.
Absolutely.
I'll
You
drop
could,
my email in the
yes,
chat.
you can drop the email in the chat box. I will send an email to you with some of the names as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir.
No
And
problem.
thank you, ma'am, for answering the question so patiently.
My pleasure, Preeti.
I think we have one more question. Amazing journey, ma'am. How was it to take a break in your career, and how was it to get back again? Interesting. Interesting question. I was expecting that question from someone.
Uh, so if I think back, when I was taking a break,
Yeah.
I really was not desperate to say, "Oh my God, I'm taking a break." Not at all.
Uh,
I believed in living for the moment,
mm,
which means I was happy to have the break, bringing up my child, spending all my time with her.
mm,
And at the same time, I knew that I wanted to get back, but I was not impatient.
mm,
I really was thinking about, okay, I will do this one of these days. It's all right. I'm enjoying my life. And when I wanted to get back, I knew that as an engineer, the world has moved farther along than where I was. And that in order to get back to rejoin, I really needed some education. And I believe in lifelong education. And at that time, to me, it was going back to study some more and then find a career that would satisfy me. So while I was an engineer, the tinkering aspect was secondary for me to solving problems. And so I said, I would like to look at careers where I can solve business problems. And that's kind of how I decided to do my PhD in operations management. And I had a very, very wonderful professor whose motto was to solve business problems with math and science. And so he was my faculty advisor, and I was lucky to do my PhD under him. And then that eased my way into my first job of this algorithm for tracking things. So
excellent.
You always have to do something to get back in. And these days, a lot of companies have re-entry programs, IBM and all these others. I would find those and do what you need to do.
Excellent. We have one last question, or one last comment rather, from Vasudha. Vasudha, you have a question? Can you ask the question, please?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Ma'am, I would like to ask something about AI again.
Yeah.
There is this companies using emotional AI in healthcare, especially. Okay, they use videos to gauge the mental health of
Yeah.
employees. Okay,
Yeah.
with facial gestures and expressions. So, what do you think about that? Do you think that will catch on?
Uh, I think again, it's one of those things where it really is interacting with a human
Mm-hmm.
at the emotional level.
Correct.
And I have not worked with any of these, so all my knowledge is only secondhand. But people say it sometimes is better than humans. Somebody needs to mute.
Ma'am,
I
Rexline,
think
ma'am, can
it's
you
yours.
mute your?
Yeah. So they say sometimes it can be better than humans, and others have told horror stories where it really acts inappropriately. So we are at a very early stage of all this, and one has to kind of wait and see how all this technology will play out. I don't think today I wouldn't put myself in a situation where I'm only dealing with the machine. Let me put it that way. I wouldn't do it, but there are plenty of people who seem to think that that's okay. So
thank you, Shant. I think we exhausted all the questions. We also 5 minutes beyond our time. One last point for you is that if people would like to reach out to you, to contact you, what would be a good way to reach out to you?
Oh, just LinkedIn will do it.
LinkedIn will do it. So your LinkedIn profile is already part of our announcement.
Yeah,
so
right,
if someone asks me how to reach you, I'll ask them to connect you via LinkedIn.
Yeah.
You may get a lot of LinkedIn requests after the program. That's what's happened to most of my guests before also. They get a lot of LinkedIn requests. It's up to you to decide how to handle it. I think a couple of them said they had more than 100 requests actually.
Yeah.
Mostly from students and alumni. So that's the purpose, to try to connect people. So if you're able to help them, great. A lot of them are looking for mentoring. A lot of them are looking for how life is in the US as a student, and a lot of them are looking for mentoring with startups as well. So we have a lot of opportunities for that. There are a lot of opportunities for mentoring in India as well, with all the different departments and centers in Anna University as well. This Thursday, I'm doing a workshop for the Atal incubatees on fundraising. They want to know about what is fundraising, what are the different ways to do fundraising, what does fundraising in the mind of an investor. So they want to hear my words on what I do as an investor, so that they can learn how investor thinks. I said I'm only one of the investors. There are many other investors in the world, but I can tell what I look for.
Right.
But they want to talk to investors to see what the expectations are, so they can prepare. A lot of them who come for funding don't really position themselves very well. And your friend Shubha Krishnamurthy, who I reached out to, Shubha and I spoke earlier this week, and she does a great job in financial storytelling.
Yep.
And so she's going to do, in this session I'm doing on May 2nd, Shubha is going to send me a video for about 15 minutes on financial storytelling.
Excellent.
To make it part of my program for the students. So we are looking forward to that. But she was very nice and very helpful.
Yeah.
So thank you for connecting me to her. And
absolutely. Yeah.
So with that, I think we'll finish the program. Thank you so much, Shantha, for joining. I know it was a very early morning session on Sunday, but your questions, your story was very nice to hear, and your questions were very, very good, and answers were good. So thank you so much for joining. Thanks all of you for participating in the program. We will look forward to seeing you all again at the end of next month for the next case. I already have planned the next few sessions already. So shortly you'll hear about the next case for month of May and then the month of June as well. All right.
Excellent.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much for having me, Vish.
Thank you. Thank you, Shantha.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.